And before I give you the third thing that I want to talk about dealing with living our purpose, I want to read a scripture to you. 1 Corinthians 15 and 58. And it reads as follows: Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast. That word steadfast there means fixed in direction, firm in purpose, firm in faith, unwavering. He says, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work. The word abound there means flourishing, thriving, flowing. He said you should always be flourishing, thriving, and flowing. Nothing should be stopping you from going forward and what it is that you are supposed to be doing when it comes to your purpose, when it comes to the work of God. And the thing that I want to talk about now is consistency. That is one of the major things that we as human beings, when it comes to fulfilling the purpose that God has given to us, that is one of the major struggles, is being consistent. What am I talking about? That starting and stopping. We start, we start off well, we're going forward, we're flowing, we're thriving, we're flourishing, and then all of a sudden something stops our flow. Something causes us to kind of fall off the path, so to speak. And now we find ourselves stopped. And then, a couple months later, we're starting. That's the same thing I dealt with, when it came to my YouTube channel. I started it, maybe 7-8 years ago. It should be way more videos and content up there that's up there now. But one of the things I struggled with was the starting and stopping, the once in a while type of thing. I would do a video and maybe not do another video for another 2 months or another month. Or there was times when I went on 4 and 5 and 6 months drought. And I know it may sound kind of comical, but because somebody might ask, well, man, why did it take you 4 months to get back on to, making videos, to encourage people and share the word? But, that's what I'm saying. You start, you stop, you allow all of these things in life to come up and kind of hinder what it is that you're doing, and it breaks that consistency. And that's what I talked about this past Monday on the Eat Up Mondays, because this past Monday was the 1-year anniversary for Eat Up Mondays, and Eat Up Mondays was something that I challenged myself to do, that honestly, and that's what I talked about this past Monday. If you guys want to go check it out, check it out. I talked about how important it is for us to challenge ourselves when it comes to our purpose and our goals, because by me challenging myself, saying to myself, listen, every single Monday, I'm going to put up a video to encourage somebody, without fail. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to strive, with the Lord's help, with the Lord's grace, to put up something every single Monday. That was something that I had not done. A matter of fact, I struggled, like I said, to get something up consistently once every 2 weeks or sometimes even once every month. But by challenging myself to do that and kind of holding my feet to the fire, I began to be consistent. That one video a week ended up being 2 videos a week, sometimes 4 videos a week. So it really helped me to break through that inconsistent funk that I was going through, when it came to going forward in the thing that I knew God had called me to do. But that's one of the major things when I hear people talk online, when I just talk with people in person or whatever have you. It seems like that starting and that stopping is one of the major problems when it comes to our purpose. Another scripture that sheds some light on that is Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9. And it says, and let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. That word faint there means to get weak. It says if we do not get weak, we do not get tired. It says we shall reap in due season. And a lot of times when we're going forward in the thing that God called us to do, and we feel like we're not seeing the results, sometimes that causes us to get weary. But if it's something that without a shadow of a doubt you should be doing, Try to keep your eyes off of what you perceive to be progress, because one thing I learned about going forward in your purpose is that sometimes God does not always reveal everyone that is being impacted, everyone that's being encouraged, everyone that's being touched. So you can't go by what it is that you see. You just have to go by what it is on the inside of you that is driving you to do that thing that God put in you down on the inside for you to do. Let that drive you. Don't allow your eyes to drive you. Don't allow what people are saying to drive you or what people think to drive you. You have to allow your purpose to drive you. Like I talked about in the last in that first podcast, you should not allow money to be your motivation to go forward in your purpose. And somebody commented on one of the videos and thanked me for kind of talking about that, because sometimes, believe it or not, we allow other things to drive us to do our purpose. Money, we look for results. We look for affirmation from people, sometimes confirmation from people like, oh, is this something I should be doing? Listen, if it is wholeheartedly in you to do it and that fire is there, God is giving it to you, you just have to go forward and just keep that, just keep your eyes straight ahead. Don't look to the left or to the right. Just like when Jesus told Peter to come and walk on the water, he started looking at the waves and what was going on with the sea, when he should have just kept his eyes straight ahead on Jesus. He would have kept walking on the water. Sometimes when we talk about walking on the water, we only talk about how Jesus walked on the water, but we forget that Peter also walked on the water. But what caused him to sink was he took his eyes off the Lord. He didn't keep his focus on God, and he looked at everything that was going on around him. Another scripture that I love that speaks to consistency, John chapter 4, verses 31 through 34. It says, in the meanwhile, now this is Jesus and his disciples after Jesus had talked to the woman at the well. It says, in the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, Master, eat. This is the disciples talking to Jesus. But he said unto them, don't miss this, I have meat to eat that ye know not of. Therefore said the disciples one to another. They didn't understand what Jesus was talking about. They said, have any man brought him aught to eat? They like, listen, did anybody bring Jesus something to eat? Because we went to go get the food. So how could he have eaten? And we're just getting back with the food. They're like, has anyone brought him aught to eat? And it says, Jesus saith unto them, my meat, my food is to do the will of him that sent me. And here's the key, and to finish his work. In other words, I am here to pour out and leave everything here that the Father has given me to do. So he says, listen, and you know what's so funny about this? Whether it's saved people or people that are not saved in the world, you always hear those stories about, oh, there were some days I went without eating. I was so focused on my purpose. I went a day or two without eating, and, so on and so forth. And sometimes we'll laugh at stuff like that, like, oh, they're being over dramatic, they're being extreme. But that's what Jesus is telling them here. Like, listen, I'm not all that focused on eating naturally right now. I'm really focused on what it is that I need to be doing, and I'm focused. He said, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me. That's my food. That's what I'm driven by. That's where I get my nourishment from. And he says, and to finish his work. The key, guys, is to finish. And I talked a little bit about that in the first podcast. Like, listen, God don't want us to pass away, come before him with the same thing that he gave to us to come here with and leave here. Like, the key is to finish the work. I've talked about that in the past on some of my on my In the Word episodes, I talked about how important it is to finish the work. You heard Paul talk about it. Matter of fact, listen what Paul says in 2 Timothy 4:7. You heard Peter talk about it also, but listen to what Paul says. He says, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. When you look at the disciples, when you look at Jesus, the key is always doing the work, but not only doing the work, being effective in the work and getting the work done. Even when you look at Jesus when he was on the cross, what did he say? It is finished. It is important for us guys to finish what it is that God sent us here to do. So if you are somebody that are listening to the sound of my voice right now, and you know what your purpose is, you were walking in that purpose, and for whatever reason you stopped, listen, you need to finish. You need to get back to it. Whatever it is hindered you from going forward or stopped you from staying on that path, you need to break through that and you need to get back to it. If you need to do something like I did, challenge yourself. Put your own feet to the fire. Challenge yourself to do something maybe every week or every 2 weeks. Something that you are not doing now that you know will be a challenge to you. And I promise you, when you start to challenge yourself in that way and you start to go forward, you will find yourself doing things that, maybe a few months ago you thought you didn't have enough time to do. And we talked about that even in the other podcast about time management and, things of that nature. So listen, don't allow anything to stop your consistency. You can't keep starting and stopping. You don't know how much time you have here. Sometimes we take time for granted. Sometimes we think that we have all of this time left. But one thing I will say to you that is very beautiful is that you have the opportunity to start right now. You are still alive. Yes, tomorrow is not promised to you, but at least you have the opportunity to start right now. And that is the key, guys. We have to be consistent. We cannot